Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Ballava Giri Bharadhare Gopi Jana Ballava Giri Bharadhare Giri Bharadhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Ballava Giri Bharadhare Gopi Jana Ballava Giri Bharadhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Vishnupad Paramahans Parivrajacharya Status Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Shri Giri Govardhan Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki, Gopremanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 20, Lord Vishnu's appearance in the sacrificial arena of Maharaj Prithu, and we are reading, verse 23. Right. Prituruvacha Varan Vibho Tvad Varadeshvarad Buddha Katam Pranite Guna Vikriyatmanam Ye Narakanam Api Santi Dehinam Tan Isha Kaivalya Pate Vrine Na Cha Prituruvacha Varan Vibhotvad Viradeshvarad Buddha Katam Vrinite Guna Vikriyatmanam Ye Narakanam Apisanti Dehanam Tani Shakaivalya Patevrane Nacha Prituruvacha Varan Vibhotvad Varadeshvarat Buddha Katam Vrinite Guna Vikriyatmanam Ye Narakanam Apisanti Dehinam Tani Shakai Valya Patevranena Cha Prituruvacha Varan Vibhotvad Varadeshvarat Buddha Katam Vrinite Guna Vikriyatmanam Ye Narakanam Apisanti Dehinam Tani Shakai Valya Patevranena Cha Vambrinite Guna Vikriyatmanam Ye Narakanam Apisanti Dehinam Tanisha Yapate Vrinena Cha Matajis. Vibhotvad Varadeshvarat Buddha Katam Vrinite Guna Vikriyatmanam Ye Narakanam Apisanti Dehinam Tani Shakai Valya Patevranena Cha Prituruvacha Varan Vibhotvad Varadeshvarat Buddha Amrinite Guna Vikriyatmanam Ye Narakanam Apisanti Dehinam Tanisha Kaivalya Patevranena Cha Prithu Uvacha. Prithu Maharaj said, Varan, benedictions, Vibho, my dear Supreme Lord, Tvat, from you, Varada Ishvarat, from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest of the bestowers of benedictions. Buddha, a learned person. Katam, how? Vrinite, could ask for. Guna Vikriya, bewildered by the modes of material nature. Atmanam, of the living entities, yea, which, Narakanam, of the living entities living in hell, Api, also, Santi, exist, Dehinam, of the embodied, Tan, all those, Isha, O Supreme Lord, Kaivalyapate, O bestower of merging in the existence of the Lord. Vrine, I ask for, na, not, cha, also. Translation, my dear Lord, you are the best of the demigods who can offer benedictions. Why, therefore, should any learned person ask you for benedictions meant for living entities bewildered by the modes of nature? Such benedictions are available automatically, even in the lives of living entities suffering in hellish conditions. My dear Lord, you can certainly bestow merging into your existence, but I do not wish to have such a benediction. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are different kinds of benedictions according to a person's demands. For karmis, the best benediction is promotion to the higher planetary systems, where the duration of life is very long and the standard of living and happiness is very high. There are others, namely jnanis and yogis, who want the benediction of merging into the existence of the Lord. This is called Kaivalya. The Lord is therefore addressed as Kaivalya Pati, the master or Lord of the benediction known as Kaivalya. But devotees receive a different type of benediction from the Lord. Devotees are anxious neither for the heavenly planets nor for merging into the existence of the Lord. According to devotees, Kaivalya, or merging into the existence of the Lord, is considered as good as hell. The word naraka means hell. Similarly, everyone who exists in this material world is called naraka because this material existence itself is known as the hellish condition of life. Prithu Maharaj, however, expressed that he was interested neither in the benediction desired by the karmis nor that desired by the Gyanis and Yogis. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Prabhu, a great devotee of Lord Caitanya, described that Kaivalya is no better than a hellish condition of life. And as for the delights of the heavenly planets, they're factually will-o'-the-wisps, or phantasmagoria. They're not wanted by devotees. Devotees do not even care for the positions held by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, nor does a devotee desire to become equal with Lord Vishnu. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Prithu Maharaj made his position very clear. Pritur Uvacha Varan Vibho Twad Varadeshvarad Buddha Katam Vernite Guna Vikriyartmana Ye Naraka Nam Apisanti Dehinam Tan Isha Kaivalya Pate Vrenena Cha. Translation: O my dear Lord, you are the best of the demigods who can offer benedictions. Why, therefore, should any learned person ask you for benedictions meant for living entities bewildered by the modes of nature? Such benedictions are available automatically, even in the lives of living entities suffering in hellish conditions. My dear Lord, you can certainly bestow merging into your existence, but I do not wish to have such a benediction. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadejatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So Prithu Maharaj is just beginning to offer some prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, who has appeared there on the scene. Yes. And of course Prithu Maharaj, and he actually continues on in the following verse at least, and maybe he continues on longer. But anyway, well, yes. So he's basically appealing to the Lord. Well, he's particularly or specifically here talking about the benedictions that the Lord can offer. He can offer any benediction, basically, because he's the best of the demigods who can offer benedictions. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, who's just appeared here, he accepts the role or the position of a demigod, but it's not that he just becomes like one of the demigods, and that's what he is, but he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of course, and therefore he is able to offer any benedictions And he can offer the highest benedictions, or the highest benediction, one could say, of pure devotional service to himself. That is available from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas generally speaking, the other actual demigods as such, they are more limited in the benedictions they can offer. Like in the story of the appearance of Lord Nrsingadev, I'm sure we all remember very clearly how Hiranyakashipu, he wanted the benediction of eternal existence in the material world, to enjoy in the material world. But Lord Brahma, who is very, very high, he and Lord Shiva are the topmost of the demigods and far more powerful. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Yes, so Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, they are in much, much higher positions than any other demigods, beginning with Lord Indra, who is the chief of the other demigods. Prabhupada sometimes refers to them as the administrative demigods. The difference in power can be, at least we can get some idea when we consider the relative life expectancies, or not just expectancies, but the actual periods of time that Lord Brahma lives, and then compare that to the period of time that Lord Indra lives, and he is the highest of the demigods beneath Indra. I mean, he's the highest, but still, in general, the administrative demigods live as long as Lord Indra. So they live, well, Lord Brahma lives for 311 trillion 40 billion years. You know, that's really a long time. And Lord Indra and company, they in a day, in one day of Lord Brahma, in one day of Lord Brahma, you get how many? 13, how many is it? Yeah, 13, 14, is it 13? Anyway, it's something like that, I forget exactly. What is it? 14 manus, okay. Yeah, so that's the length of the lifetime of Lord Indra, generally speaking, and the other administrative demigods, say 14 of them in one day of Lord Brahma. It's amazing, isn't it, the difference? So many of them in one day of Brahma. And Brahma lives for 100 of his years. Each year's 360 or so days. The difference is really spectacular. Massive, massive difference. Of course, I mean, it happens sometimes that the administrative demigods, they live longer than just one of those 14 periods, but still, compared to the life of Lord Brahma, it's really something very extremely limited. And that is also reflecting the powers that are possessed by those different personalities, those demigods, compared to Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva. Yes, so, but even Lord Brahma there, in the whole pastime of the appearance of Lord Nrsingadev and the killing of Hiranyakashipu, when Hiranyakashipu appealed to him for eternal life, then Lord Brahma told him just very frankly that I cannot give you that, I don't have that, and I cannot give what I don't have. So then, of course, we all know the story very, very well. It's one of the best known of our stories in Krishna consciousness. He tried to sort of, in clever ways, get around the limitation set by Lord Brahma to, he thought, sort of effectively get the same benediction. Of course, he miscalculated quite badly. But yes, it's like that. So, therefore, Lord Vishnu, if Lord Brahma is in such a position that he's not able to give eternal life, then what about Lord Indra and then other of those who he is associated with? And then if you compare them, even if you compare Lord Brahma to Lord Vishnu, well, again, the difference is just fantastic, amazing, that the whole material creation exists for the period of time of one exhalation and then inhalation of Lord Vishnu. So what can you say? We're sitting here inhaling and exhaling, although none of us have counted, I'm sure, how many inhalations and exhalations, we've even made. I don't think we've even considered just in a minute or, an hour, what to speak of a lifetime. But just one exhalation and then inhalation of Lord Vishnu that's the length of the lifetime of Lord Brahma. And actually it's a bit more, because it's not just that as soon as Lord Vishnu starts to exhale, that just Lord Brahma just appears like that, and then he remains until Lord Vishnu has finished his exhalation. There's also a period in between where the different phases of creation and destruction occur. So therefore Lord Vishnu, Prithu Maharaj, who of course interestingly enough is a type of expansion or manifestation of Lord Vishnu, at least a type of. Yes, so therefore Prithu Maharaj is giving Lord Vishnu this great credit that you are the best of the demigods, if we take Lord Vishnu to be a demigod, or if we take him just to be the Supreme Lord, which is more appropriate ultimately, then he's the best person who can give the best benedictions. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport here, he talks about the three sort of particular types of benedictions that different categories of people in this world may want, although of course Prabhupada combines, there are three categories mentioned: the karmis, who are just the materialists, and they're just living to enjoy the senses, sense gratification, as much as possible for as long as possible. That's one category. Then the other two categories are the jnanis and the yogis, but here in this context, Srila Prabhupada combines the jnanis and the yogis together as people who want the benediction in one way or another. There are differences in how they want this benediction, but basically, essentially, the benediction is to merge into the existence of the Lord, which is called Kaivalya. Yes, and the Lord, of course, is referred to here in the verse, in the last line of the verses, Kaivalya Pati, the bestower of merging into the existence of the Lord. Or it can also, Pati means the master. That's how he can bestow that, the merging benediction, because he's the master of Kaivalya, the master of liberation. Yes, so, of course, elsewhere, perhaps more often than not, Srila Prabhupada also makes distinctions between the jnanis and the yogis, that the jnanis are very much on the impersonal side, whereas the yogis, they're more specifically on the side, they're more personal, not completely, but more, in that they want to realize the supersoul. They would like to realize the supersoul, but in the end, at least if the yogis remain on that level and don't go further, then it ends up in a limited type of realization. Yes. Anyway, limited type of realization of the Lord, if they just stick with the supersoul. But it's certainly possible, if they're given proper guidance and direction, that if they realize the supersoul, then they can go on to realize Bhagavan, the Bhagavan feature of the Lord, the ultimate feature, and then become devotees. But still, if they don't do that, if they remain kind of stuck on the level of realizing the supersoul, then Prabhupada says that the jnanis and yogis want the benediction of merging into the existence of the Lord. One of the sort of classical, one of the classical problems which the yogis face is that in the course of realizing the supersoul, Paramatma, within their hearts and within every atom, the yogis, in the process of that, realizing the supersoul, the problem can be there, it is definitely there sometimes, that they think, this is me. They don't understand, this is not me, this is another person, a much higher person. Yes. So then they really get stuck. They really get stuck if they think that this is me. the Supersoul is me, then they may just become bewildered and just fall down into some sort of impersonal type of consciousness. Because to realize this, well, it's said, Srila Jiva Goswami says actually in Paramasandarbha, he makes the point that Brahman realization means realization of Krishna, but Krishna minus his form and minus his personality. Whereas realization of the Supersoul means also realization of Krishna with his form, but minus his personality. Whereas realization of Bhagavan, the Bhagavan feature, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's the particularly famous for his pastimes and personal qualities, etc., displayed in his pastimes. So yes, so that realization is complete realization of the Lord with his form, but also with his personality being displayed in the form or the senses of his qualities, and then how he displays those qualities in his pastimes and in his relationships. So therefore, the position of the yogis, in a certain sense, and in fact, many times we see Prabhupada explains it as being higher than that, the position of the yogis, the jnanis, who are very specifically impersonal. But ultimately, even the yogis, if they are not fortunate enough to get good association and guidance and to be able to accept that, and then go on to become genuine devotees of Bhagavan, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then their position is not good. And it's just, you cannot compare it to the position, the realization, the result that the devotees get. So the karmis, jnanis, and yogis, then of course fourth category are the devotees. But otherwise the karmis, jnanis, and yogis, their situations are problematic. And even the yogis prone to be problematic if they're not careful. And it's interesting to see, if one analyzes a little bit, in other processes of religion or spiritual types of processes, that they're not clear about the differences between, for example, salvation and entering a personal relationship with the Lord. They tend to think it's sort of, the same thing, getting salvation, getting liberation, being delivered. Yes. But actually that salvation, just becoming freed from one's entanglement in the modes of material nature, freed from one's entanglement in the material world, this is basically, the general idea is, this is impersonal. And so it's quite different from getting the realization and actually entering into a devotional relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead into one's own eternal devotional relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of confusion about what their goals are. And sometimes they mix up these goals and think that these different goals they have are kind of the same thing. But particularly going back to Godhead or reawakening one's eternal relationship with the Lord and then entering into that, it's just completely on another level altogether, just completely on another level altogether. Yes. So anyway, here, Srila Prabhupada is talking about Kaivalya as being the goal of the Jnanis and the Yogis, both of them. Meaning, the Jnanis are just impersonalists anyway to start off with, and they just want to merge, and that's just what they want. But even the Yogis, if they're not successful in sort of moving on and progressing, they end up in some form of that sort of state themselves. But Prabhupada here quotes or refers to Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Prabhu, who was the uncle of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, of the 6 Goswamis, and the brother of Venkata Bhatta, the father of Gopal Bhatta. So Prabodhananda Saraswati, in one of his literatures, he's written a few, he says that the Kaivalya aspired for by the Jnanis and the Yogis, particularly those Yogis that we mentioned who don't progress on to pure devotional service, he says, Kaivalya narakayate, tridaspur akash pushpayate. And this is a very heavy language, very, very severe language, that Kaivalya, as far as the devotees are concerned, or not just as far as they're concerned, but in fact, that Kaivalya is hellish. It actually is hellish. And it's not really glorious. It's very interesting, Srila Jiva Goswami explores this point, because we know that some people, as a sort of benediction from the Lord, well, like the demons, in many cases the demons who may be killed by the Lord or some form of the Lord, maybe not Lord Krishna, but they're killed by some form of the Lord, something like that, then because there's some contact with the Lord or some form of the Lord, they get impersonal realization, they get to merge, and it's presented like this is an achievement. Very good. They got that. Wow. They didn't just go to enjoy in the heavenly planets. They got liberation. Congratulations. But Srila Jiva Goswami makes the point. Where is it? It's somewhere. He makes the point that it is sort of like, if you're familiar with the concept of a booby prize. You know what a booby prize is? You know what a booby prize is? Oh, we can educate you about British culture. A booby prize means, you win a prize, but it's a stupid prize. It's just like a ridiculous prize. Like, I won once when I was a child, a booby prize. It was one of these whistles, you blow it, and it rolls out and rolls back in, you know, and it goes beep or something like that. And that was my prize. But it was a booby prize. It's just a totally stupid prize. And Jiva Goswami says, well, what do you expect them to get? They're demons. What do you expect? You expect them to get love of God? You expect that for people like that? No. This is naturally what you'd expect them to get. Something stupid. Something useless. And actually even demons, you'd expect them to go to hell. What do you expect for demons? They must go to hell. So kaivalya narakayate. This is what Prabodhananda Saraswati says, that kaivalya, that liberation, you can say that the devotees consider it to be hellish, but it's not just a matter of the devotees considering it to be hellish. It is hellish. It's hellish. Because there you are in some state of suspended animation, and you get some, there's some experience of some sort of bliss, but that bliss, as Srila Rupa Goswami says it in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that bliss, compared to the bliss of entering your eternal relationship with the Lord in pure devotional service, he says that the bliss of impersonal liberation is like the amount of water in the hoofprint of a calf, not even a cow. I mean, that might be slightly more, but still it wouldn't be much at all. Compared to an ocean, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean of nectar of pure devotional service. Yes. So what sort of achievement is that? It's a stupid achievement. It's not actually an achievement. Normally we use the term achievement meaning something, oh yes, very good. You achieved some special good goal. But in this sense, the achievement is, and it's not just a matter of the devotees thinking, well, it's hellish compared to what we have, but it's actually hellish. Yes. And then what to speak of the materialists who just want to enjoy on the material platform, sense gratification. There's that verse, what is it now? That the association of the pure devotee of the Lord cannot be compared. How does that verse begin? The Sanskrit? Oh, we must know this verse. I'm too old, and forgetful. What is it? Anyway, the association of the pure devotees of the Lord cannot be compared to attainment of heavenly planets or liberation from matter, and what to speak of the worldly happiness of those who are destined for death. What's the first word of the Sanskrit? Tell me the first word, I'll get it. What to do? Stay young, then you can remember things. Don't get old. becomes difficult. It's in the first canto, and it's in the fourth canto. It's in two, first and fourth. But if I knew the first word, I'd get it. Begins with T. Anyway, that's the translation, basically. That's the translation. Yes. So, yeah. Tulayama lavena pi nasvargam napana bhavam Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya Martyanam Kim Utashisha. What is it? 1813. All right. Tulayama Labenapi. Lover. Yeah. The lover, we know that term's used to refer to an extremely short period of time, fraction of a second. So the value of just a fraction of a second's association with the pure devotee of the Lord cannot be compared with, what is it? Tulayama Lavena P. Tulayama. I misspelt it. Tulayama. Yes, there it is. This is, to my knowledge, it's 1813, right? And it's also something else. It's also in the second canto. The fourth canto. It is 4:30:34. The same verse, word for word, not just approximately, like Bhagavad Gita 9:34 and 18:65. You know them, right? Man manabhava mad bhakto, etc. It's the same idea, but the verses are not identical. There's a few words different. But these two verses are actually identical. And there's, in one of the commentaries on the story of Paundraka, where Shukadev Goswami speaks two verses in which he expresses his extreme surprise that Paundraka could be such a madman to think that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One of our acharyas makes the point that, these two verses in which he expresses that this man's crazy, but actually they're slightly different. They are quite different in terms of the Sanskrit. But he says the fact that Shukadev is quoted saying effectively the same thing twice is very important. Particularly, he says, in a very small book like Srimad Bhagavatam, small book, where everything is very compressed. And like for example, Lord Ram's lamentation when Sita's kidnapped in the Ramayana, it's something like 5 chapters. In the Bhagavatam, it's, I think, 1 verse, or maybe 2, but it's just, it's just not a big thing at all. So yeah, he says the fact that this is repeated, although it's not even repeated verbatim, is very significant. It indicates that if someone claims to be God, they are mad. And Shukadev Goswami is feeling like that. This man is completely crazy because he's claiming to be God. And he says it's quoted or stated twice. Yeah, otherwise it would just be stated once. This man's crazy, thinks he's God. That's it. But he says it twice in the same chapter. But now we have 2 verses verbatim, exactly the same. Tulyama lavena pina swargam napona bhavam Bhagavat sangi sangasya martinam kimutashisha. Even a moment's association with a pure devotee, lover, it's a fraction of a second. Even a moment's association with the pure devotee cannot be compared to being transferred to heavenly planets, or even merging into the Brahman effulgence in complete liberation. For living entities who are destined to give up the body and die, association with pure devotees is the highest benediction. The translations are, very much the same idea, but slightly different wording. But the actual Sanskrit is identical. So, it's significant. It's very significant. So anyway, here, that point is being stressed. It is being stressed that Lord Vishnu is the best of the givers of benedictions, because he can give pure devotional service. He can take someone back to Godhead. We often talk about going back to Godhead, like, I may go into town or something like that. Then it's me going. But to go back to Godhead, generally you have to be taken. Yeah, it's not just you go yourself, but by the mercy of the Lord you are taken back to Godhead. So yes, like that. Devotees, what to speak of this Kaivalya, or going to the heavenly planets, meaning Svarga, the planets of Lord Indra and similar personalities, which are not on the level of Brahmaloka. So it's just stupid, basically. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying that they are not wanted by devotees. Devotees don't even care for the positions of Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, which are higher than Indra and company. Nor does a devotee desire to become equal with Lord Vishnu. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Prithu Maharaj made his position very clear. Just wants to render service, anywhere for that matter, but going back to Godhead, he has no objection about that. Hare Krishna. Comments, questions, corrections, additions, subtractions. A microphone will be coming. Thank you.
I was just thinking about yogis, and yogis nowadays with their yoga studios, and maybe even doing a course in Rishikesh.
A yoga teacher's course in Rishikesh.
Teacher
There are different levels. Anyway, carry on, sorry.
So I was just wondering, do they aspire for super soul realization at all? Is there anything like that for them?
You're asking if they aspire for Kaivalya. Well, I think we'd have to ask them, what they are looking for. But Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, when he first arrived in America and before he really sort of got his mission really started, like 26 Second Avenue, he was visiting sometimes yoga organizations, and he said that because he thought these could be candidates because they may be interested in Kaivalya, actually, Yeah, something spiritual, some sort of liberation sort of idea. But Prabhupada made the point that he went to some of these places and he found that generally they were populated by middle-aged ladies who were overweight and wanted to lose some weight. Yeah, and that was about as far as it went. And then Prabhupada also, he went to Dr. Mishra's place out in the country, that place, and they had a meditation room. And Prabhupada was thinking, yeah, right. Maybe I can get them into chanting Hare Krishna. Well, I mean, he did to some degree. But he went to the meditation room, and there they were, eyes closed, this sort of posture, the classic type of legs crossed and like this. And then he noticed some of them sort of drifting off, And then coming back like 5 minutes later or something and saying, that was a really good meditation. I really feel, energized. So Prabhupada makes the point that yes, if you have a little nap, then afterwards you feel a bit energized. But that was as far as it went. There was no transcendence in it. And these people like Iyengar, very famous, there are even devotees who teach Iyengar, like Prahladananda Swami, and a few others that I've heard. Well, I've never studied Iyengar, actually, but all I'm aware of is that it's sort of like, it's more for health and, that sort of idea. Now maybe, maybe there's some mention of liberation. I don't know about that. So in other words, I don't think we're very impressed with these people and their goals. Maybe some of them, I assume some of them do have some idea of some sort of liberation. I mean, there are definitely people like who are actual Mayavadis, although, you don't even like there are followers today of Shankaracharya, who is like really a Mayavadi. So there are 4. I mean, every generation there's 4 Shankaracharyas, his followers. And they're the leaders really of Mayavad on the planet. But they're not really Mayavadis. Not like real Mayavadis. For example, when I was told, when Padayatra, on the first time around India, when they went to, I think, Kanchipuram, because of the 4 Shankaracharyas, one of them is the Shankaracharya of Kanchi. So he was really inspired by the Padayatra, and they organized like a festival in Kanchi, and he got involved and he supported and promoted Krishna consciousness. But as a classic Mayavadi, he's not meant to do that. He's meant to point out how, this nice kirtan, sense gratification, nice prasadam, big sense gratification, and, various other things, there's sense gratification. But he didn't. He supported. Yeah. And actually, the same Shankaracharya, I mean, I don't know if you know the history of the Sri Rangam temple. The last the main tower, Gopuram, was only built 30 years ago, 25 years. When I first went there, which was 91, I think, there was all the other Gopurams were there, but the main one at the front entrance, heading towards the Kaveri, it didn't have a Gopuram at all. It was just a gateway. So then they did a collection, and the Shankaracharya of Kanchi gave, if I remember correctly, 25 lakhs of rupees. He donated to complete the temple, and then he came to the opening ceremony. But he gave a speech at the opening ceremony, but his sort of, whatever degree of Mayavad he has started coming out a bit in the ceremony, because Ranganath is lying down. So he said in front of, I don't know how many thousands of people, but plenty, that yes, Ranganath, he is lying down, he is sleeping, he is in Tamagun. He said that. And you know what? At least I was told when I went back, a bit later, and they had done the Gopuram, I was told that one of the Ramanujacharya followers took him to court for defamation, because the deity is considered like a legal person, can own property. Yeah, and the devotee won the case, and the Shankaracharya had to give some more money, something along those lines, because he defamed the deity. Shouldn't have done that. Anyway, Hare Krishna. Anyone else got a point they'd like to raise? And then Jai Prabhu, and then we'll finish.
Hare Krishna
Go
Maharaj.
ahead, please go ahead.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I've noticed, I live in London, visiting. The mandir is empty most days.
Please speak up, I'm passionate.
The mandir is empty most days, yeah? And there's so many people suffering out there in South Africa. What can we do as servants of the servants of the servants to help to bring these people to Krishna consciousness?
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Well, we can Hare Krishna them, that's one thing we can do. Get them to chant, and we can distribute Prabhupada's books. That was what Prabhupada specifically emphasized, distribution of his books. Yeah, and also distributing the holy names like Harinam Sankirtan, Prasad distribution, festivals. That's what we should do. And we are doing to some degree. We could also do it more. Anyway, good point, thank you. Jai Sachinandan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You speak about Dr. Mishra and his yoga. Yesterday, coincidentally, we were having breakfast, and Ramanuja mentioned that Dr. Mishra, Prabhupada was living with Dr. Mishra for some time.
Yes, right.
And he would only allow Prabhupada to do kirtan or chant, but not give classes.
Yes.
He didn't allow him to speak on Bhagavad Gita.
That's right. And he wouldn't, and he liked, Prabhupada would cook, but no speaking.
Yes. Then earlier on you mentioned about Lord Brahma's life. The purport, Prabhupada comments on that in the Bhagavad Gita about Brahma's life. Because although he lives for that 311 trillion, 40 billion, he says by the purview of time, it seemed like interminable.
Yeah.
But it's just like a lightning flash.
Oh yeah.
So that was mind-boggling.
Just exhalation, inhalation, that's it, it's done. Well, you know, one thing Giriraj Maharaj told me years ago was that Prabhupada was invited to Kurukshetra to a Bhagavad Gita festival. And the organizer Prabhupada came by train from Delhi, because it's not very far. So, and the main organizer met Prabhupada and then drove him out to, they call it Jyotisar, the place where Krishna is said to have spoken Bhagavad Gita, and they're having the festival there. And the man said to Prabhupada, he said, you know, you are the ambassador of Bhagavad Gita. You are spreading the Bhagavad Gita all over the world, and we just appreciate it so much. So we can't wait. We want to hear from you about Bhagavad Gita. Then the man said, but just one thing, please don't mention Krishna. Yeah. But how can you talk about Bhagavad Gita without mentioning Krishna? You'd have to have a very severely lopsided understanding of Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.